I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down. He should calm down.
So he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack. Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he wants. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber!
Water! Let's go, baby! Let's go! I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview. What are you talking about? You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You got shit. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man. Are you kidding?
No, you won the fight.
OMG. I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? MCR family, another daily edition of the show live on YouTube. Obviously, podcast from iTunes, Spotify, radio, etc. I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. We're talking all things boxing today, breaking down Joshua Wilder pre-negotiations, I guess, because they're still ongoing in a way. And I just, I hate this. I hate this twilight zone we're living in from 2017 again. Fucking hate it, but so much to get to. Plus, obviously, fights coming up this weekend. Danny Garcia, Ivan Redkach. It is what it is, right, guys? I mean, it is literally the only televised or stream card this weekend. There is a God, who's fighting else this weekend that's off TV? I'm trying to remember. I'm forgetting now. Caleb Truex. Caleb Truex is fighting this weekend. That's off TV. But other than that, this is the only card we have. So we're going to break down that one live today. Plus, Jose Ramirez, Victor Postal fight being canceled. Andy Ruiz switching trainers. Now Inoue, Casamore all but done. So much to get to on today's show and so little time. So without further ado, let me get to Gary in Dallas, my co-host. Gary, what's up, man?
What's going on, Matt? And you forgot to mention last night's card, which was a barn burner. Jason Quigley fought the guy that drove him to the arena in a fight that was ridiculous. The whole card was. I was so excited yesterday. My alma mater, Hipster, played on a televised game on CBS Sportsline or something like that. So I was like, I get to watch my alma mater play, and then I get to watch this Golden Boy card, in which my boy Greg Morales is fighting on. And then Hofstra lost, and then they didn't show my boy Greg Morales. And then to make it even worse, it was literally the worst card I'd ever seen. The matchmaking was awful. All three opponents were completely outgunned and should have never been in a fight to start with. But that's who we are. And then, look, we said the same thing about Ivan Redkach this week that we said about Jason Rosario last week. So let's see how this goes.
I'll put it this way. Rosario at least was a young, air quotes, prospect heading into that fight. Redkach is not a young fighter at all. Let's get to this fight coming this weekend.
Also lightweight, isn't he? Since when is this guy a 147-pounder?
He's not. This fight is really bad. I know PBC fans. It was supposed to be Earl Spence against Danny on this date. It's supposed to be a pay-per-view. I understand what it was supposed to be, but we didn't get that. Okay, and now we have Danny Garcia fighting possibly his worst opponent since Rod Salka. I mean, that might be arguable because he's fought some real bad tune-ups lately in his last, 3 or 4 years. But this is just such an unnecessary fight. And I get it's to keep him busy because he's been a little bit inactive last year. But come on, man. You couldn't find anyone to fight him. Jamal James, Sergey Lipinets. No one available? Really? I don't buy that. I don't buy that. But other than that, I mean, Garcia should knock out Redkach, within 3 rounds, 4 rounds, tops? And if he doesn't, I mean, this becomes one of those issues we talk about, Gary, often, where the expectations of the fight are sort of set a standard of what we expect. So Garcia, we expect him to come out here and blow this guy out. If he doesn't do that, then he sort of falls below our expectations in this matchup. And he come on, he can't do that. He can't fall below our expectations with this fighter. And we're basically saying, no, Matt, Sammy Vargas was a worse opponent. I mean, it's arguable. And even like having that argument is an indictment on Danny Garcia's off fights to a degree. But Gary, thoughts on Garcia versus Redkach in the PBC on Fox main event tomorrow?
It's on Showtime, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, Showtime. My bad.
This doesn't make any sense
Showtime.
because he's fighting a ridiculous. And next week you have Ugas fighting a ridiculous tune-up. Why not have? I mean, this is like a crazy idea. Danny Garcia fight Ugas in a fight that people care about, as opposed to two fights nobody cares about.
No, Gary. No, you know why? Because economics, financials, and any other sort of like, hot phrase that boxing Twitter likes to use, those fights can't happen. We can't have like good, decent, like, B+ level fights. No, we either get A+ fights once every 3 years or dog shit fights. And you have to accept that as a boxing fan.
It's true. And I wanted to address Rabisky. Sammy Vargas is a better opponent than Ivan Redkach. Redkach isn't even a welterweight. Like, can we look at how long ago was he fighting at 135? Look, I wanted to see Redkach get a good fight, right? I thought Redkach looked well. It looked good when he beat Devin Alexander. That's a decent win. So I wanted to see him step up and get a better opponent. Maybe Jamal James, Omar Figueroa, a name like that. You go right to Danny Garcia. It's like you go right from single A to facing an all-star major league pitcher. Like you don't want to. Like, we know what Ivan Redkach is, and maybe he's having some type of a rejuvenation.
Yeah.
But have him fight Granados first. Andre Berto. Someone like that. Let's see how he does. Lipinets. And I think Lipinets is way too big of a step up for Berto or Jamal James or someone, Delorme. Someone like that. Like, okay, he beat Devin Alexander. Let's see how he looks against the step up. If he beats that guy, well, now we have something to talk about. But come on, does anyone out there really think he beat Lipinets? Really?
No.
Right? So jump over Lipinets and go straight to Danny Garcia. I mean, this is going to be a blowout, you would think. But again, I said that last week about Jason Rosario. I do think Danny Garcia is, a really good boxer. He's got a lot of skill. He's got good power. I think he will get rid of him. I don't know if it's going to be as quick as you say. He should have him out by the 6th or 7th. This fight shouldn't go past the middle round. I don't know that he gets him out in 3. I mean, he could. He should. 3's quick. Like,
you got Granados at what, within 5 or 6?
Yeah, he looked really good in that fight.
He did. And he should look really good against Ivan Redkach.
He could. Granados is a better test than Redkach for sure.
Absolutely. That goes without saying. So I think we're all in agreement here. If anyone out there is really making arguments that this is a good fight, like, just stop.
Sammy Vargas dropped Amir Khan.
As we would say on the show, he touched up Amir Khan. Laid hands on him. What do you want next for Danny Garcia? I mean, Earl Spence has kind of alluded to the idea that he might just step right back into the fire. So would you want a Earl Spence Danny Garcia fight in July or whenever they make that one? Or would you rather see Danny versus Keith Thurman in a rematch, Danny versus Sean Porter in a rematch, Danny versus Manny Pacquiao, Danny versus Terrence Crawford? I mean, what fights do you want for Danny in 2020?
It's any of those fights are fine. Any Ugas, Porter, Spence, Pacquiao. My first 2 choices would be Pacquiao or Spence.
Not Crawford?
If Crawford, that fight's fine. If Crawford's going to fight one of the PBC guys, I'd rather it be Thurman or Spence. Again, that fight's fine. I'm absolutely
or
fine.
Porter. Or Porter.
Of course, Porter. I should have led with that. You're right.
Yeah, come on, bro. Come on. Trash.
No, that a Crawford fight is fine. It's great. But I
fight you would want for Crawford, which I probably agree with.
I do think we're gonna get Danny versus Spence in July. I don't think that And Danny Garcia is not a tune-up, so I don't want to hear that's a tune-up fight for Errol Spence. Danny Garcia is nobody's tune-up. Danny Garcia, I wouldn't pick him. Danny Garcia could win that fight. Danny Garcia is really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Out of the question to think that Danny Garcia could pull an upset against Errol Spence.
Look, plus we have enough of a case study now with Errol Spence. Like, he lost rounds against Kell Brook, Sean Porter. Like, he's lost rounds against the top guys. So to act like Danny Garcia can't win a fight, can't win rounds against Errol Spence is just being a little bit ignorant of your like recent boxing history to a degree. I'm okay with the Danny Garcia fight. He's a top 6 guy in the division.
Yeah,
you know, like that's completely fine. Former champion, 2 division champion. I have no issues with the Errol Spence Danny Garcia fight. It's just probably not the fight I would want for either guy next. And also, I am a little bit hesitant to the idea of Errol Spence stepping right back in there after that car accident. Like I might give him some bail and go take a tune-up Errol Spence. Like, that car flipped like a Michael Bay movie. Like, you don't need to go and fight Danny Garcia right after that car crash. I'm okay with that. And for Danny to go fight a Keith Thurman in a rematch, or Manny Pacquiao, or Mikey Garcia, those are all really good fights as well. Or Terrence Crawford. Like, those are all great intermediate fights as Spence maybe gets back on the mend, because that shit was crazy. The fact that we are actually like having a conversation, not just me and you, Gary, but like as a community, that like Spence fighting all these guys still is just, I think, a little bit ignorant of that car crash. Like, even though he didn't have any broken bones, like that's still body trauma that you're sustaining, you know, let alone what sort of head trauma he sustained in that sort of car crash. I'm good. I'm good with a layoff there. We're basically saying Matt is a Danny hater. That's facts. I've been pretty positive of Danny in this show, I feel like.
Yeah, I've never taken you as a Danny hater. Heck, Tanahara maybe, not Danny Garcia.
You want to talk about your little theory that we were talking about off air before the show about Danny Garcia and the rankings now?
Yeah, why don't you give him the lead and then.
Well, the WBO now has Danny Garcia ranked as the #1 welterweight behind, obviously, Terrence Crawford, the champion. And right behind him is Virgil Ortiz, #2, and right behind him is Sergey Lipinets. So you have some interesting parity there at the top that Danny Garcia, if he wants, could force a title eliminator against Virgil Ortiz or Sergey Lipinets next for a Terrence Crawford fight. Those are all really interesting matchups. I just don't think it's possible. Like, I think most likely what we see is Danny ignoring that sanctioning fee and getting dropped in the rankings next month, and we see a Virgil Ortiz, maybe Sergey Lipinets title eliminator for Terrence Crawford, and Danny stay on the PBC side. I think no matter what, the Terrence Crawford Danny fight doesn't happen at all next. I think we're more likely to get a Terrence Crawford Sean Porter fight for that crossover PBC top rank fight that everyone's looking for within the division. We're basically saying those are 3 great fights for Crawford. I agree. I think even like Sergey Lipinets, Virgil Ortiz, like if Terrence Crawford fought either one of those guys next, massive step up to who he's been fighting relatively recently, right? So I'm all in favor of that, even if it's not Danny. But interesting to note that Danny is now #1 in the WBO rankings, which I thought was peculiar.
I always thought Lipinets was like pretty good. And I think another hard-headed Eastern European is the last thing they want to put in front of Terrence Crawford, just saying. You know, another real tough, rugged Eastern European guy. I think they're going to.
And an actual proven one, too.
Look, Terrence Crawford beat Sergey Lipinets. Mikey Garcia beat him. But Sergey is nobody's pushover. He's a good fighter, which is why I don't think Danny Garcia, let's say, and if I'm Oscar, I'm pushing to get the WBO to make a title eliminator as quickly as possible. I don't think Danny takes that because I think he thinks he can get either the Spence fight or the Pacquiao fight. Probably both of those would be bigger money fights for him, and I think he would do that. So I don't think he would take a fight with Virgil Ortiz, risk losing a big, huge day with one of those other 2 names. So that would move him out of the way, out of the rankings, which would mean Virgil Ortiz versus Lipinets is the fight to make for the.
I got plot twist for you. Okay, Gary. Now just follow me here, okay? We have Crawford Teixeira talks, like little, preliminary talks, right? Oh, but what if Crawford vacates the 147 belt, moves up, and we get a Danny Garcia versus Lipinets fight for the vacant WBO belt? PBC gets a further monopoly on the welterweight division. Just saying. there's a lot that could happen here in the welterweight division the next year, and we can see a lot of movement. Yeah, that would be crazy if that happened.
If that happens, is Danny Garcia fighting on Showtime because they recognize the WBO belt and that Danny Garcia plans on pursuing that? Is
No,
that he's fighting on Showtime?
I doubt they even mentioned that on the broadcast. Maybe on the broadcast because it's Showtime, right? What we've always heard is that it was Fox, not a Showtime thing.
Right, it was Foxing, right? So he's not fighting on Fox because Fox doesn't recognize WBO anymore. Showtime does.
Hey, I mean, I'm just saying, connecting plots here. But moving on, because who knows what happens with Danny next. And most likely it is an in-house PBC fight, for being completely honest. Next up on the co-main event, speaking of tune-ups, Jarrett Hurd fighting Francisco Santana, another guy that's not actually in the weight class he's fighting in on this card. Love when that happens. Hurd obviously coming off a long layoff, a loss, trainer switch. I get he's deserving of a tune-up. Like, I get that he wants a tune-up. I get it. This level of a tune-up, though, a guy that's not even in your division, I hate these fights. Like, I really do. There's 1,000 fucking guys in your weight class. Fight one of them. Fight one of them. You know? I'm not even saying fight the top guy. Just fight one of the guys in your division. Stop bringing guys up from other weight classes to fight you in tune-ups. I hate that. The Gervonta Davis thing, the Mayweather thing. I hate when fighters do that. It's the worst way to get fights made. And again, if you want to stay busy fight, there's plenty of guys in your division you can pay super cheap that aren't real tests for you that you can get your tune-up in. So I don't get this matchup at all. It should be a blowout. I am curious to see Hurd's improvement because he's been saying, his team has been saying that he's been improving his defense a lot. So, I mean, if we see a defensive boxing, clinic here from Jarrett Hurd, that'd be awesome to see. But again, it's against Francisco Santana, so who really cares? Gary, thoughts on this co-main event?
I have gone so far on Hurd. I used to think Hurd was just a fun fighter who would get outboxed by everybody. I picked Harrison to beat him, I picked Trout to beat him, and I picked Laurie to beat him. And I said, okay, no more picking against Hurd till he loses. And then he lost the next fight against J-Rock. And I think that got in his head. Like, I think J-Rock, because again, J-Rock didn't land a lucky punch. Like, he didn't knock him out with something. He didn't eke out a decision. He beat him up over 12 rounds. Hurd fought his fight a lot. And J-Rock did great work on the inside. J-Rock knocked him down. J-Rock fought beautifully and beat him up. I think that's played in his head. I think that's why he didn't take the rematch, which I don't think he should have. And now he's fighting Francisco Santana. Like, I think this is in his head. I think, like, and then he saw J-Rock get iced by Jason Rosario, and I like Hurd. I met Hurd. He's on the wall. He's a great dude. He's energetic. Like, he's a really good dude. I don't know that he's ever going to be the same. This is like the Chris Eubank loss to Steve Collins, but this is playing in his head at this point. Like, I don't know what to make of J-Rock, Jarrett at this point. I mean, I think that J-Rock loss is in his mind, and he needs to destroy Santana and beat a real good fighter before he's right in his own head.
I agree with that largely. If he comes away with this fight and looks great, looks like he's improved, like the trainer switch has been a good switch for him. Do you think he should head straight back in there with a Charlo, Harrison, Williams, Rosario? Like, are those names that he needs to be fighting next after this if he's looking 110%?
If again, this Santana fight's not going to be much of a gauge though, because it's a welterweight who's not good. Mm-hmm. Remember when Hurd called Spence a weight bully because he was just bigger than all the other welterweights? Now he's literally fighting a welterweight when he's the biggest junior middleweight in the history of the world. It's like,
yeah.
I would like to see him take an intermediate step.
Okay. Like a Lubin fight? Ooh, come on. I said that instantly. Like, ooh. If Hurd's back, that should be an easier fight. But if he loses, it doesn't matter if you're PBC because then you have Lubin getting a win over a former unified champion. Now Lubin's really back in the top. Hey, I should be a fucking matchmaker. Just saying, I would change the game.
I think they would give him a guy like Castano, a guy who's defensively floored, who he may be able to shine against. But he looked good against Trout and Laura, who were good defensive fighters.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I was really high on her, and this is I don't know. Like, this fight is basically, like you said, nothing. I mean, it's good to see her fighting again, but this is a sparring session against a guy who's much smaller than him. It's really outside of saying, "Hey, Hurd's fighting." That's cool. There's no appeal to this fight. You know what I'm saying? It's not. It doesn't show us anything. It doesn't show us if he's back.
I agree. Speaking of, though, the one good fight on this card, though, the one good fight of the weekend, Stephen Fulton versus Arnold Kaigai. This fight is a really good fight between two undefeated prospects in the super bantamweight division. Kaigai versus and Fulton are, I think, really talented boxers. I think Kaigai has a little more power to him, obviously. But, I mean, this fight should be fun. I mean, we're going to talk about undefeated, unknown fighters fighting really talented fighters, come up with the Josh Taylor topic. But Kaigai is one of those guys, he might surprise people here. I would not be shocked at all if we see an upset in this fight, so to speak, even though I don't know what the line is. It might be dead even. Gary, thoughts on Stephen Fulton versus Arnold Kaigai? I know you've been a huge fan of Stephen Fulton. Thoughts on this fight?
I'm a big fan of Kaigai, too. I don't know that Kaigai's undefeated. I think he lost once early.
No, he has a draw.
He got a draw. Okay. Good job, Matt. This is a really good fight. Kaigai beat a Texas fighter on Showtime named Adam Lopez, who's one of those guys, like, he's a stepping stone guy. Okay, he's actually fought on Showbox more than anyone else, right? Because he's that guy. Like, let's put him in the ring. If he beats him, then he's ready. He destroyed him. Kaigai's a good fighter. He's a big, strong guy. This is a good test for both of them, and I think the winner is fast-tracked for a Brandon Figueroa fight. I think the winner is good. I mean, I don't know if you want to call that a world title. I don't want to have that debate. But I think that's what you're going to get. And I think either guy could win. Like, I think the path for victory for both guys is pretty clear. If you're Stephen Fulton, don't stand still. Keep moving. Use every inch of the ring. And if you're Kaigai, you have to impose your...
By the way, Santiago is correcting us. The K is silent. It's Hi Guy. Or He Guy. Probably going to He Guy. I want to say. Arnold He Guy. Thank you, Santiago. I don't agree with the winner of this fight being fast tracked to Brandon Figueroa. Figueroa's fighting Guillermo Rigondeaux, soulless winner.
You think so?
I will bet money on it. Not really, because I don't have money to bet, but like I would theoretically bet money if I had money on that happening. I think the winner of this fight is perfect for the next step up, which would be Julio fucking Ceja. Give me the winner of this fight versus Ceja, and then the winner of that fight versus the winner of Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Figueroa. And we can have that all happen this year too. And then next year, the winner of this whole little mini PBC tournament then fight, Ray Vargas for that actual belt, since they now have Ray Vargas. Because that would be interesting, because PBC having Ray Vargas gives them a real belt to fight for other than Figueroa's fake belt. So he might be the monkey wrench in here to my thought process on how they're going to matchmake this division. But I can see Ray Vargas getting some tune-ups this year and then fighting, Guillermo Rigondeaux or Figueroa at the end of this year, December, something like that. I think fast track to a degree to a title fight, Gary, but not to Figueroa. They're going to get maybe one more intermediate fight and have to wait out those top guys figuring shit out.
I feel like Fulton's getting the short end of the stick. They've thrown a lot of good fighters in with him. They threw Josh Greer in with him when he was real young. They threw Adam Lopez in, who we just mentioned. Adam Lopez, when they were both undefeated, he beat Lopez. Then I think last year or so, he beat a Puerto Rican prospect who they were high on. And I think that's how he got signed, was when he won that fight. Like, he keeps beating these guys who they don't know that he's going to beat. Like, and now it's like, now go beat Ceja. It's like, well, Ceja doesn't, maybe. I mean, that's a good fight, But it's like, how about we throw this guy Fulton the bone and we get him a big money fight? He's jumped through every hoop you've asked him to jump through.
Yes, I get it's not. I've always been the mindset look, I get shit's not equal and fair in this sport, but I work in my mode, right? I function in my principles and how I think. So regardless of other guys getting fast tracked and getting the money fight before they deserve it, and not even money fight, the opportunity for a belt and shit like that, a la Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney. That doesn't mean that Stephen Fulton should be fast tracked when maybe he shouldn't. You know, like meritocracy, especially in this division, is kind of needed because this division is pretty stacked, and there's a lot of stagnation at the top right now to a degree. So a lot of these guys at the top need to fight each other before Stephen Fulton can jump in the mix, in my opinion.
But you can say, and I'm glad they do because Brandon Figueroa is, my favorite fighter on that short list. So
one or two, yeah, 1A or 1B.
Yeah, he headlined cards on FS1. Like he fought in the lead up to the Deontay Wilder fight. But just through as many fights as they had, Stephen Fulton's resume is pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't see too many what is Fulton? 16-0, 17-0 with like 3 solid wins over 3 undefeated fighters like that. Like, Fulton, I feel like he isn't getting the love that he should. I know that division's tough to sell, but Brandon Figueroa gets the love. And I'm glad he does.
Well, you give him the love. You give him the love. I will say, you're right that PBC definitely pushes him more than Stephen Fulton. That's without doubt. I think that's probably due to them thinking the Mexican demographics for Figueroa and the low weight classes are there more so than the African American demographic for low weight classes. Just historically, that's kind of true. Secondly, I would say Figueroa, due to his name value to a degree because of Omar Figueroa, they value him more. Fulton's a new commodity, while Brandon is a known commodity, a known brand because his brother's been fighting for a decade. And so that kind of, I think, helps to a degree. It's not the same thing with the Charlos, but it's that sort of effect. Where I think PBC sees them as brands, the Charlos as a brand, the Figueroas as a brand. So we're going to push them. And I get that. I get that understanding and that mentality from a business perspective. But also, I would say this: Stephen Fulton, if he fought Rigondeaux, Figueroa, Ray Vargas, any of those guys next after he, let's say, theoretically beats Higai in convincing fashion, not dominant fashion, but convincing fashion. Let's say he fights one of those guys next. Do you pick him to win? I don't. So I'd rather him take the necessary step ups that he maybe needs to further solidify his game before fighting those guys. That'd be my take on it. But Gary, I thought, like, would you actually pick Fulton against any of those guys next?
Probably not. Although, no, I wouldn't pick him. But I could see how he could beat those guys. Look, Rigondeaux is 39 now. He's going to get old. He looked old against Seha. Now he's still got the left hand, and he bailed himself out with the left hand in a fight that you thought was stopped too soon.
It was.
I was fine with the stoppage. But he bailed himself out with his power. Seha's not a great defensive fighter. Fulton's a much better defensive fighter. Could he bail himself out like that against Fulton? I don't know. I'd pick Rigo at this point just because I'm a Rigo fan. I think Rigo's skills are second to none. Well, obviously second to Loma's. But his skills are, incredible. So I'm still going to pick Rigo for the time being. But I could see Fulton winning these fights. Like, if he stays on this bicycle, if he fires the jab, keeps moving, doesn't trade much, he can outbox these guys. He's a really good boxer.
Maybe I want to see that against a guy that's a little more established, like a Seha, before fighting, Figueroa, who had a draw with him even. Rigondeaux, who knocked him out, or Ray Vargas, who's a fucking champion. Like, I need to see certain fights first.
Vargas signed with PBC?
Yeah, he did.
That's
why I mentioned him. Yeah, and also Scott Brown mentioned a good matchup for Vargas in the intermediate time. Vargas versus Luis Nery. Because Luis Nery is moving up to 122. Hey, 122. Scott Brown, I love that. I love that matchup. That's for me.
One-sided beatdown. I think Nery walks through him. I really do.
Really?
Yeah. Look. Yeah. I can't see Vargas winning under any circumstance. I don't think Vargas is that good. Like, I think he uses his size and reach to his advantage against B and C level fighters, but he's not going to beat Luis Nery. I think Luis Nery destroys him. And
really?
Yeah.
You think Luis Nery destroys Ray Vargas?
Now, it may go rounds because he's a tough guy, and he may take a couple rounds to figure out his length and size and everything. But yeah, eventually, Luis Nery destroys him. He stops him for sure.
That would be like saying, Jamal Charlo definitely moves up to 168 and just demolishes David Benavidez.
No, he's not David Benavidez. It's like saying he moves up to 168 and destroys Caleb Truax. It's like, yeah, probably.
No, Ray Vargas is a fucking champion, dog.
Caleb Truax was a champion. Yeah, okay. Ray Vargas is just a champion until he fights somebody good.
He hasn't been fighting bad opponents.
He hasn't. His resume is fine. It's just
I bet he has common opponents with Rigo, Daniel Roman. Like, I don't have the top of my head, but like he has a decent resume.
Rigo, Roman, do you pick Vargas to beat any of those guys?
Rigo, yes.
Doheny,
yes.
I don't pick him to beat any of those guys.
Roman, most likely not. People like Roman whooped Haney. Like, not Haney. Not Doheny. Sorry. And who else would there be that like I would like?
Brandon Figueroa.
I would pick Ray Vargas to beat Figueroa right now. Figueroa had his big fight to prove he was ready for the top, and he had a draw.
The guy came in as a super featherweight. The guy was 130 pounds.
He took the fight, dog.
Like, he took the fight because what is he not going to get paid? He has to take the fight, and this is the problem we were talking about. But he's got to take the fight. He hasn't made millions of dollars where he can say no. Right? I mean, he got $250, which is probably his career biggest purse. What's he going to say? No, I'm not going to take it. No, he's got to take the fight. Plus, he probably got a cut out of. He did. I don't know how much he got, but he got a cut out of Sejas purse too. So now let's say the kid got $300,000. Oh no, I'm not going to take that. Come on, man. Obviously, he's got to take the fight.
Oh, I understand that, and he took it, and he got a draw. Like, these are just facts, Gary. Like, I don't like Sejas was that benchmark, that barometer fight he needed to beat to show that he can beat Roman, Rigo, and all those guys, and he had a draw. That shows that he's almost there. He's not there yet. So yeah, I would pick Ray Vargas against Figueroa right now.
I mean, no, that's good logic. I just think you're missing the fact that Sejas didn't. If Sejas,
I understand that, but like, look, if Figueroa is that talented and that much of a prodigy, then fuck, get around that issue. Figure it out. You're taller and lankier than him, so you have the reach. Figure that shit out. You know, look, I'm not going to give you bail when you took the fight and you didn't win it. It's a draw. And if the conversation, the context of the conversation is you fighting an opponent better than that, you know, that's the only context I will have when I sort of shit on a draw, so to speak, is if we're talking about that fighter then progressing to the next level. No. He's still at that level. Keep fighting at that level, maybe. You know, who's another guy on Sejas level at 122? I should probably just look up the ratings right now. Quickly look at this. Who's another like top 10-ish 15 guy? I'm looking up right now because top of my head I don't remember right now. I can't remember a good parallel for that. Isaac Dogbe, Iowasa, you know, Ronnie Rios.
There you go. Yeah.
Like Gavin McDonnell, you know, Kameda. You know, there are certain guys that you can start fighting that are at that level still. That top 12, 10. Like, I would love to see those fights for him before he then goes and fights Ray Vargas.
Okay.
And same with Stephen Fulton to a degree. You know, Shingo Wake. You know, go fight that level. Like those veterans that have been around for fucking 10, 15 years, that are still in the top 20, that have been in 3 or 4 divisions. Go fight those guys.
Yeah, go fight Shingo Wake. The Japanese guys. He's Japanese, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Those are always fun fights. Go make that fight. A Mexican come forward fighter and a Japanese guy. That's a can't miss fight. Make that fight. I like that. How old is Shingo Wake? He's probably not that old. He's probably like 32. Or how?
He has to be actually pretty young, right? I feel like he only has like 20 some odd fights. So yeah, he's probably like 20, probably like 29, 32, somewhere around that range still. But let's move on. Do you have anything else to say about the card?
That's it.
All right, let's get to the news of the day. Let's get to this Joshua Wilder topics because we have to. Joshua Wilder Fury winner is being pursued by Saudi Arabia, and plus Eddie Hearns saying we will send an offer after the Tyson Fury fight if Wilder wins, and vice versa if Fury wins. That's a 50-50 offer for Anthony Joshua in December. Gary, thoughts on this news? You check out that interview on IFL. Just because of the system right now, I can't play the video, but you can obviously find on IFL. Gary, thoughts on Joshua Wilder potentially in Saudi Arabia? Eddie Hearn and Joshua saying they will send 50-50 offers. I know Wilder did respond at the presser with Raider Rahim and sort of said, look, I'll talk about it after the Fury fight, which is totally fine. But thoughts on this potential offer in the near future and the likelihood of a AJ Wilder, AJ Fury fight in Saudi Arabia?
Good. Let's do it. My only concern is what about the two-way rematch clause? Like,
now, Eddie Hearn did say if they come back and say, look, we're going to take the trilogy fight, says we're good. We will go take Usyk and we'll fight 2021.
I'd rather that, honestly. Like, as much as I want to see Joshua versus Fury or Joshua versus Wilder, I'd rather see Usyk beat up on Joshua.
Now, what if there's some like real finality to this rematch? Like, there's a knockout either way. Like, there's real decisive winner here.
I think there is one way or another. If Wilder wins, it's not going to be by outboxing him on points, right? He's going to ice him, right? Because it's Wilder. If Fury wins, I think he's going to win like how he was winning the first fight minus the knockdowns, right? Like, it's going to be pretty clear that Fury won. So I think we're going to get finality. That's why I was never huge on a mandatory rematch, basically, right? Because a two-way rematch clause is basically a mandatory rematch because the loser's just going to exercise his option.
Arthur Ace, in the chat saying, I doubt any fighters go to Saudi in the next year due to the Iran conflicts. Well, Eddie said that they have a deal with Saudi Arabia, so they have to deliver 2 events to them. And they have to be 2 events that are, in Saudi Arabia's eyes, worthy. So he's going to have to deliver something to them, regardless of that conflict. Back to you, Gary.
Again, like I said, the two-way rematch clause isn't great because I think, however this fight ends, I think there's a clear winner. Yeah, I don't see if Fury stands up and makes it through 12 rounds without being knocked down. I don't think the fight's close. Or he doesn't and he gets iced, and then.
Why are we acting like it's just a binary issue here? Why is there not a huge spectrum of how this fight could end up? And it end up sort of like the first fight, where there's knockdown. It's a tough fight to score because of those knockdowns. Rounds are close, and you get a decision where it's arguable and debatable, just like Triple G was with Canelo. All 2 fights. Because
it could be. I don't.
Sorry, just to finish my thought process before I lose this train of thought. Because even like Canelo, Triple G, the second fight, very different dynamic to it than the first fight, right? In terms of how it looked, how it played out, but still a very controversial decision where people argue to this day. I could see Wilder Fury ending up that way without a doubt. Again.
I can't. Like,
really?
Fury was just on the comeback. I think his skills are sharper now. He's in better shape.
Sharper? Otto Wallin. Did you
I knew you were going to say that.
Sharper?
I was going to say that.
His skills are sharper?
In the Fury fight, in the first Wilder fight, he was 8 months away removed from being a 400-pound drug addict, right? Like, yeah, I think he's in better shape now. He's sharper now than
he had 3 tune-ups before the and
one was against the second best cruiserweight in all of Bulgaria or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean those.
Yeah. No. But Gary, I mean, you have to understand, like those 2 tune-ups, he didn't get dropped, he didn't get cut up, he didn't get beat up, he didn't almost lose a fight.
No. I see what you're saying.
And this lead up, he did. And the entire time he's been fucking around with pro wrestling. Okay. I mean, Wilder's been alluding that he's back on the good stuff. I mean, I don't know here. Like, Fury's switching trainers. How can you say he's sharper now? He isn't. He's changing environments on a dime. His last fight was atrocious, where he got beat up to a top 50 fucking heavyweight.
Maybe
no, he doesn't look sharper at all. That scar on his eyebrow shows he's not sharper right now. Nuh-uh. You can argue that he could win a decision, but I'll be honest here. I think the conversation that's repeating itself from the first time of it's either Fury outboxes him or Wilder knocks him out. It's one-way traffic. Either way is complete fucking horseshit. This is high-level boxing. It's so rare that high-level boxing between high-level elite fighters is one-way traffic. It is so rare. It's more often than not close, contentious decisions. And honestly, more often than not, kind of boring fights. So, no, I will probably bet money that we're going to get a decision here that's contentious and that's arguable and debatable for the next 5 years. 100%.
So you think this thing's going to go 12 rounds?
Absolutely. I think we're going to see knockdowns. I think both guys are going to get hurt. I think it's going to look very similar to the first fight. The only difference is, because Fury alluded to this, I thought it was interesting. I think people scoffed at it, but in the comparison I used earlier, Canelo Triple G, think about it, Canelo was the back foot defensive boxer in the first fight, right? What do you do in the rematch? Step 2 Triple G. Make him go on the back foot on the defensive. And that changed Triple G's entire game. He could not adapt to that. If Fury is able to apply pressure to Deontay Wilder and land combinations like he did in parts of the first fight and had success in, then this could be a very different fight, but still be a contentious fight where both guys go down or both guys get hurt at least. Like, I see this fight being weird and being a high-level boxing fight where it's contentious and it's hard to decide. When we get down to the decision, it's one of those where we talk about, hey, well, round 1, 4, 5, 8, 7, they could all go either way. So, I mean, how are you going to score that? It's going to be that conversation, 100%.
Okay. I mean, I see it like the Ortiz fight. Like Ortiz was winning until he wasn't. And Fury isn't 40 years old. So if he doesn't get clipped, which I don't think he will because he's younger and more mobile, then he just wins all the rounds.
But I would 100% say that Wilder Ortiz 2 is a fight that is in my side of the argument. That's a fight that wasn't one-way traffic. Ortiz won literally every round and then got knocked out. That's not one-way traffic.
That could happen in this fight. That could,
but that wouldn't be how I would define one-way traffic. It wouldn't be one guy either dominating or the other guy dominating. I don't see that happening. Like I don't see a scenario where Fury wins a decision and doesn't get hurt. I don't see that. Likewise, I don't see a scenario where Wilder gets a knockout where he doesn't lose the majority of the rounds. You know?
I think we're agreeing on more than
we are. No, we are. We definitely are. I think you are just more adamant about there being finality to this fight. There being a consensus here going forward. And no, I don't think that at all.
But let me ask you this. Without the 2 knockdowns, right? Would you have any in the first fight? Is there really, or at least the second knockdown? Keep the first one in place, right? So Wilder scores 1 knockdown, hits him, hurts him, but he's not really in danger of being knocked out. Do you have much interest in seeing the rematch again? You know what I'm saying? If it were to play out like the first one minus the second knockdown, you know what I'm saying? Like Fury won. You know, like it wasn't a high action fight. Like Fury's just the better boxer.
It was. I thought it was a high action fight. I mean, first off, I like suspense. So you're talking about heavyweights with that power going at it, and it was clear from the very beginning that both guys had enough to kind of rock the other. Okay, and it was about could they land that shot. Both guys were kind of highly inaccurate in the first 6 rounds or so, but when they did land, it had an effect very early on too. So no, I thought the fight was exciting, and plus, I hate those types of thought experiments. Like, what if all of this stuff that actually did happen didn't happen? What would you do then? Well, it's like that cool. Like, I don't live in that world. Like, I live in a world where like all these things did happen. This is what we live in. And it was an exciting fight. It was one of the best fights of the year. It was a fight that in large aspect with alongside like Klitschko AJ helped rejuvenate the heavyweight division, both in the US and in the UK. So I want to see this fight next. Even, without the knockdowns, would I still want the fight? Absolutely, because that they did happen. And that fight, I think in this fight, the rematch, we'll have knockdowns too. Like, I don't think there's no way this fight goes 36 minutes without one of them getting hurt. Like, that just isn't possible. Tyson Fury got hurt against Otto Wallin, for fuck's sake. Deontay Wilder gets hurt and outboxed in almost every fight he's in. This is a dramatic fight on paper, and it will be dramatic again.
I forgot what I was going to say.
All right, dude, we've been talking about this for a while. You want to move on?
Oh, Klitschko and Fury went 12 rounds and no one got hurt. You know, that was an entire 12-round fight at a high level when no one got hurt.
Like I said, most high-level fights are boring.
That fight was boring. And Fury won every round, and that fight was boring.
A fight we were talking about earlier, Thurman Garcia. That first fight, boring as hell.
You think so? I don't think it was boring.
Dude, I was there live for it, man. There wasn't a single person in that arena that was like, yo, this fight, yes, this is my shit right here. No.
Taylor Prograis. That's high-level boxing at its best, and that was not boring.
True. And that's another sort of like good example of like Wilder Fury, where like fights that are high level either are really contentious, where there's arguments afterwards about like who really won, or it's that fight kind of sucked and kind of underdelivered. That's usually how it is. Joshua Parker, Jack Willis in the chat. I mean, that was another really high level fight that underdelivered for obvious reasons, right? But it's either one or the other, in my opinion. Like, it's rarely one-way traffic. It's rarely dominant performances at the very top against other guys at the very top because they're elite fighters. Like, it's so rare. That's why when it does happen, it's always an eye-opener. Right? Like, to a degree, like Lopez versus Comey, right, that you were mentioning earlier. Even though Comey's not like the elite of the elite, I would say, he's still a B+, A- guy in the division, right? That's still a massive win. That was an eye-opener because that shouldn't have been one-way traffic, and it kind of was. You know? Moving on, though, unless you have anything else to say about Wilder, AJ, 50-50 offer. I mean, you really didn't even talk about that. Like, do you think, like, Wilder would take a 50-50 offer? Like, do you think, like...
Absolutely, 100%. Against the second biggest name in boxing, you got to take a 50-50 offer.
I think the we have a timer now on this fight.
Wilder would absolutely take it. What Tyson Fury does is, I have absolutely no idea what Tyson Fury does.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I say 2021, we for sure get AJ, Wilder, or Fury. Like, we for sure get that. I agree with Gary that I think we have this trilogy fight at the end of the year with Wilder Fury, and we get AJ Usyk, and I think everyone's okay with that.
And then we get Usyk versus the winner of the trilogy.
Just stop.
Well, what if we get through the trilogy and it's 1-1-1, where one fight it was a draw, one fight Wilder ices him, and then in the other fight Fury outboxes him 120-108. Like, what happens then? Do we got to do it a fourth time? It turns into Pacquiao.
Hold on, Usyk said something.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, that's what that would be. That'd be bullshit. Which, I mean, that shit does happen. I mean, it's not unquestionable that we do have that happen. But moving on, Demetrius Andrade inking a new 4-fight deal with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, and DAZN. Gary, thoughts on Andrade inking up this new deal with Matchroom heading into the Luke Keeler fight?
This means to me that Canelo's on the horizon. Like, it can mean nothing else, right? I mean, because Eddie Hearn hasn't actually delivered big legacy-making fights for him, so he sold him on the idea that Canelo's next. I guess in those 4 fights, that Canelo is definitely, absolutely, 100% a part of those 4 fights. I'm going to try to get you Charlo. I don't have any control over that, but I can get you Canelo. I don't know how much money this is for. Maybe it's just so much money they can't say no.
I don't think it's Canelo.
Who do you think it is?
Triple G. That's an actual in-house fight. He doesn't have any access to Canelo. And like he's look, I was listening to some Eddie Hearn interviews today. I know, weird. Rob was busy today, so I had to kind of listen to some Eddie Hearn interviews, I guess. But I mean, he said, like, look, like we have no leverage with Canelo in negotiations. He was talking about Billy Joe Saunders and Callum Smith, but you can use it the same logic he used for those guys with Demetrius Andrade, right? That they're the boss in the negotiation. He used that word specifically, that Canelo and Oscar are the boss in the negotiation. Okay? And if any of these guys say one word that they don't like, they don't get the fight. So, it is what it is. So I don't think he can promise Canelo to Andrade. There's no way he can do that. There's no way DAZN will be able to do that or Matchroom after the whole Canelo Triple G kerfuffle, as we're going to call it. I think it's Triple G. I think he is promising him to a degree. You get Triple G in these 4 fights at some point.
Yeah, but it's like a college recruit when they get a kid who they say you're going to be our starting defensive end. You're going to be our starting defensive end. They sign the letter of intent, and then the first day of minicamp they say, okay, you go with the linebackers, right? It's like I told him what I needed to tell him to sign him. I told him he was going to get Canelo. Whether I can deliver on that, I don't know. But I convinced him that I could get him Canelo.
I don't know if that was the crux of the negotiation.
I don't know either, but I'm just saying, like, then it's just got to be for so much money that he can't say no, kind of like Top Rank and Terrence Corbin, because they haven't delivered anything for him. Like, they haven't delivered him legacy-making fights, unification fights. They haven't, and he's been there for how many fights? The best name they've given him is Luke Keeler.
Look, I agree. And obviously, like, Steven Espinoza came out in an interview, I think, with Name Redacted the other day, I guess, and said that he offered Andrade before he signed the first deal with DAZN, a big lucrative offer. Don't know what that meant or what that really means in terms of how lucrative it was, but I think Andrade looked for the biggest money out there. DAZN's probably the biggest money. Just looking at the metrics here and the data that I have, and you go check out my article on Mixed Comment Radio, DAZN's overpaying fighters the most of any other network. That's just facts. Andrade probably got a bigger offer from DAZN than Showtime. Like, that just doesn't seem out of the question here. And maybe he thought, like, I'm with DAZN, Canelo's there, Triple G's there. It's easier to get those guys. But I don't know if he was ever guaranteed those guys or promised that. It's never been said that. I think what has been, though, to a degree, is that Eddie said, look, I have Triple G. That I can maybe get you that one. Maybe get you that. I'm speculating here, but I'm assuming that's what he told Andrade. Because the rhetoric he is saying right now around Canelo, there's no way he went into a renegotiation with Andrade's contract and said, yeah, I promise you I get you Canelo. There's no way he does that. Because he can't do that. He can't deliver on that promise.
It would be the first time a promoter lied or stretched the truth, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, again,
you're right. It would be the first time, and that just can't happen. Promoter lying.
Maybe it's just, it was so much money, and Andrade said the only way I can. Like, I'm not signing with Oscar, all right? That's not happening. So the only way that I can keep myself in serious contention for a Canelo fight is to stay on this side of the street.
Yes.
That's a possibility too.
Yeah.
Andrade's a pretty weird guy, but I think he's a reasonably, intelligent guy for as weird as he is, like dressing like a pirate and stuff like that.
He was a colonial Bostonian.
Is that okay?
Yes, because he was fighting the Redcoat, Billy Joe Saunders.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was. I know no one got that because it was stupid, but yes, that's what that was at that presser. I'm wondering who he really could realistically fight. Maybe Munguia, but like all the real names you're gonna talk about 160 for him are guys that really Eddie doesn't have access to, at least in guaranteed access, except for Triple G. He has a co-promotional rights to Triple G. So that is the biggest fight Andrade could get. And that's a fight, if he wins, might be his golden ticket to a Canelo fight if he beats Triple G.
Which he would, which is why Triple G ain't taking this fight.
Yeah.
Shot.
Andrade's in a weird position. Like, he's making a lot of money right now, so good for him. He's fighting more often now, good for him. But, I mean, he's still in this position where no one wants to fight him. He isn't really built himself into a brand that makes fights happen, So, what does he do here? He's stuck in no man's land, making millions, fighting nobodies.
Andrade versus Brian Rose, Part 2. Does Brian Rose, is he...
Why would he mention that?
Is he an Eddie Hearn guy, Brian Rose? I don't even know.
Might be.
I don't know. Rob would know the answer to that.
He would. Maybe Leonard does in the chat. Any other thoughts on Andrade with this 4-fight deal with Eddie Hearn?
No. No.
Moving on. Jose Ramirez, Victor Postal fight canceled. Gary? Canceled. Postponed, I should say, due to the Wuhan coronavirus. Big virus going around in China. I haven't really done a lot of research into it, so I'm not going to speak on it. But the fight has been postponed. Gary, thoughts on this mandatory fight for Jose Ramirez that's now been postponed and supposed to be rescheduled soon, I guess, but we don't know. Thoughts, Gary?
But of course, because I was looking forward to this fight. So obviously, as boxing fans, it gets canceled. Again, I can't blame anyone. I mean, you don't want to get a life-threatening virus, right? Like there's already 18 people.
Blame at all.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame anyone. It's just this is what it's like being a boxing fan. I was leaning towards actually picking Postal in this fight. Like I was gonna go back and watch a bunch of the fights, like the Batiste fight and the Josh Taylor fight, where he counted really well for himself. I think Postal is one of the most underrated guys.
He is very underrated. But against Ramirez,
you can outbox him. You don't think he can outbox him?
Did you see Ramirez outbox Maurice Hooker?
Maurice Hooker, as much as I love Hooker, that's my guy. He's defensively flawed. Postal is not as much as Hooker.
Okay, I agree with that.
Well, you never let me get away with hyperbolic statements.
I mean, you guys can always come back at me for my hyperbolic shit that I say, because I say a lot of hyperbolic shit that you and Rob could definitely be like, no, Matt, what are you saying right now? You guys just don't. You should. But digressing, I agree with you, Gareth. Good that this fight's postponed because, I mean, if this virus is very serious and deadly, no point in sending a bunch of your employees and workers to the quarantine zone. Like that just makes no sense. I hope though that they reschedule it for. Now, hear me out here. I think Bob alluded to this being on a big card now. Thinking Wilder Fury 2. That card needing a lot of depth. Let's be honest. It's only a couple weeks after the scheduled date for this fight, right? I would just reschedule and shuffle it into the undercard of Wilder Fury 2 and make it from a 3-fight broadcast on pay-per-view to a 4-fight broadcast on pay-per-view, which isn't a big deal, and that this be the co-main event. I know it does. Corporations don't think this way, but that would be what I would do.
I agree. I mean, I think they're going to add it to a big card. I think that makes sense. I mean, unless they're going to push it back all the way to April and put it on in the Garden with Loma and but I can't see him putting it back 3 more months from now. The Loma Teofimo fight. Is that even official yet? That's not even official yet, is it?
No, it's not official. It's one of those it's done.
Yeah.
Waiting to cross some T's, dot some I's.
Okay. So I mean that would make sense. It would make sense for them. It would make sense for the fans. It would be great. So it probably won't happen. Because there's no reason for it not to happen. It probably won't.
Economics, financials, money, any other hot topic word and phrase that boxing Twitter likes to use to excuse good fights and good things happening or not happening.
I mean, because everyone is paid so much money now that, I mean, look, and good for these guys. I'm really, but it's like, this is stopping things from getting made now, right? Like, it was like when the Anaheim Angels gave everyone $30 million. It's like, oh, we need a utility infield. Just give somebody $30 million. He'll come sign with us. It's like, good for these guys. That's good. But like, at a certain point, like,
as somebody that is like a low-key Angels fan, I know exactly what you mean by that. That was bullshit, and I hated when they were doing that. It ruined the franchise for a good 8 years.
Yeah, it's great. The guy's making $30 million. Good. You should take it. But it's like, this isn't sustainable. Like, Joe Smith got $600,000. I read for the fight with
Good for him.
Good for him, but this isn't sustainable.
The fact that he still works a union job is crazy, right?
$160 for the Hopkins fight, I read. Which is like, okay. I mean, that's probably on the low end, but that's what he had to take at that time. He gets $600 for a smaller fight. All right, whatever.
Dude, it's a different era, man. Like, I swear, in the next 10, 20 years, when we, because ESPN's not going to do a 30 for 30 on this era of boxing, but like when we do like our own really shitty fan-made documentary on like the 2010s, it was a wild time, man. So much shit happened. Like, For any like new boxing fan that listens to this show or new listener that listens to this show, like if you weren't around like 2012 or 13, shit was just completely different. Let alone 2015 or 2016, which was only 4 years ago now, 5 years ago now. That shit was. It's almost incomparable now to talk about 2020 and 2015 boxing. They're two different sports and entities and industries almost. But moving on. Let's move on to where we have next. Oh, yes. I want to talk about this topic so much. Samson Boxing won the purse bid for the mandated Josh Taylor versus Apinan Kansingong title fight with the bid of $1.32 million today. I think Top Rank's bid was just under that by like $100,000. Surprising and could complicate matters since Taylor just signed a deal to exclusively fight on ESPN platforms. I'm curious, though, if Kopech is wrong on that, because I don't know if he signed a contract to be exclusive to ESPN or a Top Rank deal. Because like we always said, promotional deals and network deals are not the same thing. But, Gary, PBC, because Samson Boxing obviously is a PBC sort of affiliate, right? They now have the rights to a Josh Taylor fight for his promotional debut with Top Rank. Thoughts on PBC and Samson's Boxing coming in here and stealing this fight, and plus putting a hardcore guy like Kansingong who could actually win this fight? Like, people don't, if you haven't watched this guy fight, go watch him. Oh, gosh. I mean, this guy's good. Like, he might lose this fight and still be a really good fighter. But digressing, thoughts on this, Gary?
Samson Boxing is kind of like TGB. Like, it's right. Like, I mean, it's its own promotional company, but it's always on PBC cards. Mm-hmm. Does it have to be? Could it still go on ESPN? I don't know. Could it still go on ESPN, or is it like some kind of contract between Samson?
No. I want to say there's a quote specifically from Samson Lukowitz about PBC wanting this fight. We talked about that, I want to say maybe a week ago, something like that. There was a quote from him specifically saying PBC wants this fight.
I mean, I don't care. I mean, PBC on Fox or ESPN, they're both terrible at covering boxing. So maybe it goes on Showtime, and that's the best case scenario. But I don't know. It seems weird to me.
Also, they have said that they want this fight in the UK.
I mean, none of this really makes sense to me. But
why not?
So, Samson bought it to put it in the UK. Why would he take his fighter and put him in Taylor?
Well, because you're not going to put him in Thailand.
No, but you put it in the States.
But why?
Because I don't want to go to his backyard.
It doesn't matter. I don't think they're thinking about this. This guy has like a 90% knockout ratio.
Yeah, it's not. We're not going. We're not going.
They're thinking, look, if we go over there to his hometown, we knock him out, we endear him to that fan base, which is a booming market. You know, similar to like the Usyk thing. Like UK fans are very accepting of non-UK fighters at times. You know, like if you go and fight in the UK often and endear yourself to that community, you become sort of well liked as long as you stop fighting UK fighters after that point. So I could see that's the thought process here, that Kansingong is not going to be a U.S. household name, so he's a mercenary fighter. You know, he's not going to be the A side in really any big negotiation, but we're going to position him for big fights. He's going to win big fights, and we will play the B side. We're going to win the purse bids, but we'll play the B side if you want. You know, and I think since we now have the rejuvenation of Box Nation and PBC putting a lot of their cards on Box Nation, this fight's probably going to end up on Box Nation in the UK. Curious to see who they link up. I think it was Jack Willis in the chat saying surely they'd join up with a British promoter. I would assume that to a degree as well, that they, you know, for a one-off align themselves with Frank Warren to a degree, because Frank Warren's not Top Rank and not ESPN. So you can still have this be a Box Nation, PBC, Queensberry Promotions card, Samson's Boxing. I mean, you could just do that. And it'd be, you know, a lot of cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, but it kind of makes sense.
when you put it like that, okay, that's fine. And I like UK fights because they're in the middle of the afternoon on Saturday, and I don't like to leave my house for anything, so get something to watch on a Saturday afternoon. I like it. Okay, yeah, I mean, right. We're not going to go to decision. We're going to get a knockout, and we're going to make him a star in the UK, and we'll fight other fights over there. Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that. That makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, and plus this is a really good fight. So I'm happy we are most likely getting it. Curious though, if he just vacates this belt.
That was what I was thinking.
I am highly curious to see if Josh Taylor just says, I'm a unified champ, I can give one up. Which would go against the whole signing to Top Rank to become an undisputed champion with Jose Ramirez unification fight, right? Because then you lose a belt and you don't have anymore. That goes to Samson's Boxing / PBC. That would be kind of unfortunate. Plus, I think who would fight Kensingong if Taylor doesn't fight is Sabra Matias. That'd be really good. I think he's next in the ranking. So
that guy's good.
That would be even a good fight too. Hardcore fight, but that would be a good fight. But digressing, Gary, any other thoughts on PBC potentially stealing Josh Taylor's Top Rank debut from ESPN and Top Rank?
It's great.
Petty as fuck. I love it.
I love it. No, that's it.
Speaking of Top Rank, though, Nao Inoue and Casamora most likely fighting April 25th in Las Vegas. Per Keith Idek. Keith Idek writing, Nao Inoue's Top Rank debut is all but set. And it's going to likely be televised on ESPN, not ESPN Plus. I do like the sound of that. Gary, thoughts on this fight? All but set in stone, Vegas, and it most likely being on ESPN and not ESPN Plus.
Do we have an opponent yet? Is it? I mean,
Casamora, yeah.
Oh, Casamora's the opponent. Yeah. Everything's a win. Vegas doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I can't see this fight selling in Vegas, but
must be a site fee
bigger than what they could get in Japan. I mean, that seems hard to believe, though. No,
he signed the Top Rank deal to expand to the U.S. Yeah. That's like in the press release that stated as the main reason they signed up Inoue and Inoue signed to Top Rank is to become a global superstar.
Yeah, and with his style and his power, you could make him a global superstar. I like it. I just hope people watch it. My only concern is that no one's going to watch it because he's 100.
I wonder what the lead-in is going to be on this day, April 25th. What other sports are in season around then?
April 25th is the very beginning of baseball season. That's it. You got the NBA playoffs.
You can do that. Maybe NBA playoff game, or just a lot of promotion to the NBA playoffs. I would like that. I cannot wait to see Top Rank put more marketing behind Nao Inoue compared to Terrence Crawford. Cannot wait. It's gonna happen.
I mean, but what's the end game for Inoue? What's the fight that you say this is the big money prize at the end? Like, I don't see that fight. Josh Greer, but that's
no. It's not at 118. You have to think beyond that. You have to think of 122, 126. You got to think in that perspective.
I can't go to 126. He's not big enough.
He's not. I understand that, but that's how Top Rank is thinking it, and that's probably how Inoue is thinking about it to a degree.
So Shakur Stevenson or Josh Warrington's the end prize?
Yes.
Those guys. He's not big enough to beat those guys.
He's not. But you know what? He has the built-in excuse as Rigo has. I'm a 118-pounder, 122-pounder, moving up and fighting these guys. Just because I have to, because those are the only money fights. Yeah. And we give them the pass for that, because we understand why they do that, why they're at a disadvantage. We understand that. Arthur Emmanuel Navarre, stop. I mean, great fight.
There you go.
But not a money fight. We're talking in that perspective, talking about making him a global superstar. It's probably Shakur Stevenson's the long-term name they're looking at, if I'm guessing. Gary.
That's so crazy, right? Because, I mean, look at the size of those two guys. Not even close. I mean, it's like Pacquiao versus Margarito, but Margarito had no skills compared. It's Shakur Stevenson. Right? It's a guy who's
In an alternate reality, it's Isaac Dogbe, but we don't live in the alternate reality.
Yeah.
It's sad.
At one point, Dogbe looked like the goods, and I still think he can come back. I mean, he's got a lot of flaws, but
he can't. Dude's still sparring his uncles, man. No. That's not happening. Moving on for the sake of time, Gary, unless you have anything else to say. No. Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, pretty much done. Joe Joyce saying from Mike Copper saying source, Joe Joyce has agreed to terms to meet Daniel Dubois on April 18th at the O2 in London. Now the ball is in Dubois' court to complete his side of the deal to finalize an intriguing heavyweight fight between undefeated big men from the UK. Also, I want to say it was the European or British title. They have now ordered, I want to say, Joe Joyce versus Filip Hrgovic. I don't think that fight's going to happen. That order is not going to come to fruition. I think this one is. But Gary, thoughts on this fight? Seemingly done. Joe Joyce agreeing to terms per sources, and Daniel Dubois is left to sign it and to complete this fight.
I know Joe Joyce has a fan base. I know some people like Joe Joyce. You should tune into this fight because he'll never be the same after this fight. No, I like the fight. It's a great fight. It's a good step up. It's a credible name. I think it puts Dubois in a position, keep moving forward against better opposition. You think the fight's fairly competitive for a while, right? I don't. I think Joe Joyce is too slow. I think this is gonna be one-way traffic just because Joyce doesn't.
He's not the athlete.
Yeah.
Talk to the mic, Gary.
Oh, just because Joe Joyce doesn't have the natural athletic gifts to compete with Dubois.
He can do backflips, Gary. Do you know that? Have you seen it? I don't think you have.
No, I don't think I have.
Wait, you really haven't seen his backflips?
Joe Joyce does backflips?
I'm pretty sure he does a backflip like after every fight.
Maybe. I don't know.
I might be imagining that.
I think he has to be good. I mean, he's a big dude to be doing backflips.
I feel like he's one of those guys that, like, he should be super athletic, but he just his hand speed is just so slow. I don't know what it is.
He's gonna get demolished.
Who has a faster hand speed, him or Dominic Brazil? I'm sorry. That's fucked up, guys. I'm excited for this fight. This fight's going to be fantastic. It's going to be great for the UK scene as well. And like Gary, I'm a huge Dubois fan. I'm a huge stan of his. I'm a huge believer of his potential. So this is going to be another coming out performance for him when he's been having some already.
Who's Matt?
Jack Willis backing up me saying that Joe Joyce does backflips. He does capoeira. That's it. I knew he does like some weird shit. He does capoeira. That's that Brazilian martial art.
Okay. Who's a better prospect? Dubois or Joey Spencer?
We're moving on. Gilberto Ramirez, Edler Alvarez is a title eliminator along with Salimov versus Vlasov for the WBO as a little mini tournament they're having. And Yavon Mitchell saying, yes, we've agreed to this now. So thoughts, Gary, Edler Alvarez and Gilberto Ramirez fighting for a title eliminator for the vacant title fight as Salimov and Vlasov also fight a title eliminator for that vacant title fight.
My boy Joe Smith really got the shaft on this one, didn't he?
Also, like that too, to a degree, but also like this just feels like an unnecessary step.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about how like you hate purse bids, right? With the whole Luke Campbell Fortuna, like why do we need to make this a process? Like this isn't that fight to make it a process. Similar. Why are we making this a process in this little mini 4-man tournament when we don't need that for these matchups, right? Just make Gilberto Ramirez Alvarez for the vacant title fight. Like, just do that. Like, just cut the middleman, cut the extra 2 middleman because you're having another title eliminator for a vacant title fight that hasn't even happened yet. Just make Ramirez Alvarez the title fight. Just make it that.
Right. I don't understand why we're doing this other thing in the interim either.
You can make Salimov Vlasov, but that shouldn't be for like a co-position with Gilberto Ramirez Alvarez. That's just ignorant on the sanctioning body's part in terms of these guys' levels and what they actually bring to the table and their actual ranking in the division. Like, Umar Salamov is a borderline top 15 guy. Vlasov isn't. Okay, Gilberto Ramirez is a top 10 guy. Alvarez is a top 10 guy. They, in large aspect, deserve to fight for a vacant belt.
Absolutely. The other two names, just I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all.
And Umar Salamov has been like fucking protected for so long. I don't care. I don't care about watching him fight.
It's like saying we're gonna have the Bucks play the Lakers over here, and on this other game we're gonna have the Knicks play. Give me another complete nondescript team. The Grizzlies, and then the winners are gonna play each other. It's like, well, just get rid of this Knicks versus Grizzlies game, and then let's just play
for a championship that the Warriors won last year. Whoa! It's like, no, we just don't care. Like, that just cool, I guess. Like, good games. Like, these are respective to like the whole situation. These are really good fights. Like, Salamov Vlasov is a good fight. It just has no bearing for the title picture, or at least it shouldn't have really any bearing to the title picture. And it does. And it has on par bearing with Ramirez, Alvarez, two actual former champions. That just makes no sense to me at all. But like I said, I do like the fights regardless of this whole sanctioning body tournament that they're doing here.
What I'm saying is, if Jesse Hart would have beat Joe Smith, Jesse's Hart's name would be in that 4-way thing. It would be. Like, it would be.
Yeah. Yeah, because of Bob Arum and the WBO affiliation, yes.
Why is Joe Smith getting shafted like this?
Because he's not the top ranked guy. He's a mercenary, man. He's the B side. You play the B side route.
So who does he fight next?
Smith?
Yeah.
The winner of Ramirez, Alvarez. Or if the intermediate fight, obviously. I don't know. I'm trying to think right now. Maybe like a Callum Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, that would be good.
Someone that's a top 15-ish guy.
Absolutely.
Still a fun fight, but not a fight that you should lose, in theory, right? Moving on, though, care for the sake of time. Bob Arum has confirmed they have now signed the deal to co-promote Gerald Miller moving forward, alongside original promoter Dimitri Salita and Greg Cohen. His comeback fight plans will be worked out this week per Talk Box. Gary, thoughts on Miller all but being confirmed with Top Rank, and what would be the first fight you would make for him next?
What was Greg Cohen's thoughts on this? Is he still in jail? He owes my boy money.
Is he still in jail?
I mean,
Brian Jennings.
Otto Valine.
No, we're not getting that fight. We're gonna talk about that coming up. Otto Valine's fighting someone else on Showtime.
Okay. It could be Jennings, but Jennings is for a guy that size. Again, I'm always going to preface, is a good athlete for a guy that size. I don't know. Like, look who they put Fury in the ring with. Jennings is drastically better than the last two guys Top Ranks put Fury in with. Like, I can't see them giving him I'm going to take liberties with this word, a good fighter like Jennings is. Like, now everyone's going to say he loses to everyone, which he does, but Jennings is a good heavyweight. Like, he's a decent heavyweight. Otto Valine ain't, right? Like, so you're going to put Gerald Miller coming in off a year layoff in with a guy drastically better than anyone who Tyson Fury's fought under your watch? I mean, I think it's going to be a complete pushover. Tom Schwartz.
I don't want to talk about this anymore. Moving on. What else do we have? We have a lot to get to still. Here we go. Breaking from Dan Rayfield. Promoter Samson Lukowicz from Samson Boxing, speaking of them again, told ESPN on Friday they made a deal with Matchroom Boxing's Eddie Hearn for the vacant lightweight world title bout between Dominican Republic's native Javier Fortuna, who is with Lukowicz, and Matchroom's Luke Campbell of England. The promoters were close enough to a deal to ask the WBC to postpone the purse bid until Tuesday, and they worked it out ahead of the new deadline. Quote, "I am waiting for a contract, but we have a deal," end quote from Lukowicz. He added that while Hearn did not specify an exact date, he said the fight will be in April in the United States. Fortuna and Campbell will meet for the 135-pound belt stripped from injured Devin Haney. Gary, thoughts now that we have this fight all but set in stone with no purse bid happening?
It's good. That's good. I can rest easy now. But that still seems like a contradiction. We have an agreement that we just don't have a contract. Well, you really got nothing then. But
no, we agreed on this deal that we haven't signed yet.
Okay.
That's not binding.
Right.
We agreed. Yes.
Okay. Great. Like, so let's put that on paper and let's sign where the line is dotted. And then we have something. Right now, to me, we still have nothing.
You hate this fight so much, Gary.
I like the fight. It's a good fight. I think Campbell wins. I think it's a pretty good action fight. And I think, good. Campbell won't be on that list of great fighters 10 years from now when we look back at the best fighters who've never won a world title. Luke Campbell will, and this is going to make Matt mad, have a world title.
I hate this. Moving on. Speaking of a guy we've been talking about lately, Otto Wallin fighting Lucas Brown. And they have agreed to terms for a spring fight on Showtime. Gary, thoughts on Wallin, Lucas Brown on Showtime?
When you said we were going to talk about Otto Wallin later, I totally forgot about this topic. Like, no, I have no thoughts on this topic. Next topic.
I mean, who do you think wins this one?
I don't know. Lucas Brown, I guess. I mean,
I'm picking Otto. I'm picking Otto here.
I don't know.
What? Are we going to talk about why does Showtime have this fight?
Yeah.
And in fact, like, damn, it is slim pickings for Showtime, isn't it?
This is the worst fight ever. This is why I hate heavyweight. Like, look at this fight. This is so bad.
It's the worst fight ever. This is such a bad fight. I hate this fight so much. I can't. And poor Showtime, man. I'm shocked they're not getting shit for this, to be honest. Leonard saying Showbox on Friday, not Showtime. It's still Showtime, man. It's still on main fucking Showtime. It's not on Showtime Extreme. It's on Showtime. Okay. Damn. Slim pickings, man. Slim pickings for Showtime in 2020. Thought they were going to get more content this year.
It's content. It's just really bad content.
Fly paper saying it's evenly matched, I think. It is evenly matched. It's evenly matched dog shit, to use for lack of a better term. You know, like, this is, like Gary said, the worst fight I have seen in some time. This is a main event, guys. A main event. Between two guys who are not, I mean, what, top 50 in the world? They're maybe top 50 heavyweights. Maybe. Like, they're maybe 50th. That's what I'm talking about when I say they're top 50. Not they're like 30th, actually, or 36. Nope, they're maybe fighting for that 50th position in the world. Yeah. I don't care to see this fight at all. It's a punchline. It's a punchline for a variety of reasons. And on top of it, when it happens, it's going to be a punchline in the ring too. Like, there's no way this fight's going to be good.
What goes on the undercard of this? Right?
I don't want Jared Enos.
But that should be the main event because this fight's so bad. This should be on the untelevised portion of the.
I'm shocked this isn't on the Wilder Fury pay-per-view card. Shocked.
It should be. That would make a lot more sense.
No, it wouldn't.
I mean, no, but
it would make it would make more sense, maybe. But Jack Willis, I'd rather watch Rob mow lawns. I agree. This is hilarious.
Do you think Steven Espinosa sat down, got everyone from Showtime, CBS in the room and said, we need to get Lucas Brown versus Otto?
No. I think this sort of fell in the lap and it was a cheap fight. right? It had to be. There's no way they're spending six figures on both guys here.
Nothing surprised. I was going to ask you, what do you think the purses are in 2020? What do you think they're going to make for this fight?
I think probably both are going to make about 60 grand each.
That's pretty good.
And that'll be decent.
Yeah.
That's a yearly wage for a lot of fucking people, man. Like, you're going to be good on that, especially if you're these low-level heavyweights. But this is a main event on Showtime. Not Showtime World Championship Boxing, because it's obviously not World Championship Boxing. But it's still Showtime. I haven't seen a Showtime fight this bad in some time. I mean, Showbox fights.
Showbox it better.
Yes, absolutely. Every single Showbox card of the last year is better than this. Every single one. And you know what? I can't even name half of them. But I can guarantee you they're better than this dog shit. Anyways, let's move on. Teixeira Castano. Purse bid being ordered by the WBO on January 29th in Miami. Gary, thoughts on this purse bid? I know you love purse bids. And this fight overall.
It's a fun fight. I think Castano wins. Like I said, Castano might end up being the best guy in this weight class. The weight class is wide open. You know, the top 5, 6, 7 names can all beat each other. And unfortunately for Teixeira, he's not one of those names. He got this title because he beat Adames, who also wouldn't be one of those top names. But the Top Rank had a lot of hope in Adames. It just didn't really pan out. I still can't believe Adames is trained by Robert Garcia. Like, that's incredible to me. But no, this is a good fight. I think Castano wins. I think it's a good action fight, and Castano's so good offensively. I think he stops some rounds around 8 or 9, whatever you want to call that, mid or late rounds. Like, but there's a lot of action. I think both guys are going to eat some shots, but I think Castano's firepower and his complete offensive game is way too much for Teixeira.
I agree. I think he's more of a compact puncher too in terms of combination punching. He has better technique overall, and plus that Laura fight, man. Like, even though he had a draw with Laura is far more meaningful than a win over Adames. It just is. I am curious because it's one of those fights, right? That's not same side of the block. You have a Golden Boy fighter fighting on usually fights on DAZN. He won his belt on ESPN, okay, and a purse bid against a PBC fighter. Very curious to see where this ends up in terms of a purse bid situation, or where this fight ends up in terms of networks. Because I could see both sides heavily pursuing this, Golden Boy and PBC side.
Well, if they both heavily pursue it, Oscar doesn't have the funds to get the fight.
What do you mean?
Do you think he does?
I think so. DAZN has, and for an undisclosed amount, invested into Golden Boy for them to put on events like this. Not the Jason Quigley fight last night, to put on events like this. Okay? And it's not official, but from my assumption, because of how the Matchroom situation is with their Matchroom Boxing LLC, the USA corporation is with DAZN, and DAZN having an ownership of it, I assume DAZN has some ownership of Golden Boy now, and they will probably pump some money into this as well. It won't be, a huge purse bid, but 1.2 to 2 million, absolutely. You're going to see a purse bid around that.
Good. That's good. And I don't know, maybe someone in the group can tell me, but is there, because the countries are both really good at soccer and geographically right next to each other, is there any rivalry between Argentina and Brazil? Is there like a Puerto Rico, Mexico kind of rivalry, but in South America between those two countries?
I would say so. From my understanding, there is.
So
I would say, if you're talking about South American soccer, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, and maybe like Chile have deep rivalries. Especially like Colombia and Brazil. I feel like they have a really big rivalry. But digressing, you could definitely play into it. Absolutely. I would. I don't know if we would ever see that happen, because I would assume that would be like
over there. Yeah.
over there, right? Like if this fight's obviously being televised in Argentina and Brazil, for them to televise ads and market it over there, it could be pretty decent over there. Absolutely, yes. And my understanding from also MMA, because there's an Argentina versus Brazil rivalry in MMA, because obviously there's a lot more Brazilian fighters in MMA than boxing. It's big. It's really big. The UFC had their first event in Argentina 2 years ago, and it was big. They actually they pulled it off very well. And Brazil has been a hotbed for combat sports for a long time. Not as much boxing, but combat sports. So yeah, I say there's a. If you really want to think globally, this is a fight that could be a not to this level, obviously, but it could be close, like the Murata, the Inoue, the Tanakas of Japan.
Could they put this fight, whoever wins the bid?
Castano, they should definitely push Castano to be that in Argentina.
Could they put it in Argentina or Brazil?
Brazil for sure. Argentina would be a little bit harder. They don't have nearly, I would say, the economic surplus from a country that sort of can put on those events.
Argentina doesn't?
Compared to Brazil?
I think Argentina's, I mean...
They're a good economy, but Brazil's a far bigger economy. Like, exponentially so. Like, Brazil has actual exports that are global exports. Argentina doesn't. I would... And plus, Brazil has a long track record now of putting on big MMA events. Putting on 20, 30,000 seat venues of combat sports. Argentina does not.
Do you think Brazil, at least then, let's go with Brazil. Is that a realistic place to put the fight?
It is, and it isn't to a degree, because I think you could do it, and you could be very successful putting on Teixeira Castano in Brazil or Argentina. But I don't think Golden Boy or PBC are thinking this way. They aren't thinking, how can we expand to Brazil and to South America? They aren't thinking that, unfortunately.
Makes sense, though. Like, there's a box. I know it's more of an MMA combat sport community than it is boxing. But the Falcao brothers are from Brazil.
They're really good, too.
Fritas was from Brazil. Like, there's obviously a boxing community in there. It's something that they're into. Now, it might not rival MMA or jiu-jitsu and obviously not soccer, but, like, there's a lot of people in Brazil, a country with a huge population, who likes combat sports. Why couldn't you make boxing bigger and capture a large portion of that audience? And again, it's a country that economically is doing pretty well.
Gary, it's not that they can't, or it's not that you can't put, you can't build these markets. It's that these corporations, PBC, Golden Boy, they don't have the capital probably to really expand to those markets, is my guess. I've been reading the Matchrooms limited holdings financial documents for the past month or so. There's a reason why they can expand to a bunch of different markets, because they're not just a boxing promotional company. And in fact, that's not really their biggest moneymaker. It's darts and shit like that, actually. And significantly so. So they're able to get a lot of cash flow from that to offset expansion costs. Golden Boy, like I said earlier, had some offset of costs from DAZN, but that's to expand and invest within the U.S., I would say. The UFC is a multi-billion-dollar company, with a B, billion-dollar company. That's what allows them to expand to all these different markets and have fights in all these different markets.
And they don't have to worry about paying their fighters, so that's good too.
And they don't have to worry about paying their fighters as much. That's a significant factor. You're talking about wage share being 20% in the UFC compared to on average 70% in boxing. Massive difference. Significant difference there. So I think it's, to use the hot button phrase of boxing Twitter lately, the economics of the situation. I don't think that these promotions can really expand to Brazil and South America like they theoretically can, right? If they had the capital, they absolutely can. but they don't have the capital, so therefore they really can't get the headway into this market. Or not this market, but those markets. Also, someone in the chat saying Sergio Martinez had a big fight there. He did, but the gate revenue wasn't high at all, as expected. And he didn't have a lot of his big fights there, obviously. The big fights don't happen there.
He didn't have his big fights. They didn't fight Paul Williams there. He didn't fight Miguel Cotto there. He didn't fight Chavez Jr. there. Who did he fight there?
Tune-ups.
Yeah.
Tune-ups. So it's just one of those things. Brazil, I think if Castano was the Brazilian, you might see that from PBC. Because Brazil's an easier market to tap into than Argentina. But it is the way it is. But great fight. Cannot wait to see it wherever it is, what card it is. If it's a main event, co-main event, third fight from the top, I don't care. This is a fantastic fight. And I cannot wait to see it if and when it does happen. And we should know by January 29th.
We're going to Sloan, Iowa to watch an Argentinian and a Brazilian.
Don't say that. Okay. Because if we get a Mulvane, Kansas situation over here, I'll be upset. This fight, if it's in the U.S., needs to be in LA. Massive Argentinian and Brazilian populations in LA. The Brazilian population in LA alone is enough to put the fight here.
Is it really? Does that mean is it that big a population?
Massive, man. Because all the deep cut for UFC and MMA, but the Gracies, they left Brazil and moved to LA.
So that means they're going to put the fight anywhere but LA.
It's going to be in Indio, California.
California,
yeah. LA. Just as far as Vegas. Andy Ruiz and Manny Robles part ways. Sad news, right? Hold on. Sad, man. Sad day. Some rumors about Teddy Atlas being involved, heading forward with Andy Ruiz, but nothing official, nothing really said yet from any camp. Thoughts, Gary, on Andy Ruiz leaving Manny Robles? Steve Kim reported, I don't believe this, but Steve Kim reported that Al Heyman made Andy Ruiz do this. I don't believe that at all. And Steve Kim hates PBC and Al Heyman, so I question the source of the reporting. This is weird, I guess, but it's Andy Ruiz. He clearly is maybe kind of a head case, and we kind of scoffed at that before, but maybe he is just a little bit of a head case. Gary, thoughts on Andy Ruiz leaving Manny Robles? The rumor that it was due to Al Heyman's request, and also the rumor that he's now linking up with Teddy Atlas.
I don't, Atlas was able to develop Povetkin for a while until Povetkin, I think, failed a steroid test, his first one, and Atlas said he wanted nothing else to do with him. I think that's what happened.
I think so as well.
He worked with Bradley for a while in recent memory and did some good things there. I don't think it's a terrible thing. I mean, look, when Andy Ruiz had a performance like that, he was looking to blame someone, so he blamed his trainer. It happens in stick and ball sports too. Something goes wrong. Like the Brooklyn Nets are talking about firing their coach, like one of the best coaches in basketball, because they're not winning right now, right? Okay, I lost. I got to blame someone. I'm going to blame my trainer, so I'll get a new trainer. It's not the first time that it'll happen. I mean, I don't think it was Robles' fault. I think it's Ruiz didn't come in shape, and he couldn't get on the inside. I mean, it's pretty simple. But yeah, I don't think Robles is the world's best trainer either, so it's not a bad thing that he's leaving him. So I think there's a better fit for him. All's well that ends well, I guess, right? Like, get a better trainer, and maybe he needs a guy like Teddy Atlas who will get him amped up and ready to go. Robles seems like a laid back guy. Like, if you want to come in,
he definitely is. He definitely is. Yes.
If you don't, then have a good day, sir. Like, Teddy Atlas is going to
look. I've been in the gym when Manny Robles had Oscar Valdez, Brazil, Michael Conlon, all training together in the gym. I was in the gym with him. Guy never yelled at all, ever. That's just not him. Like you said, laid back. He is definitely the type of guy. On his off time, he's wearing shorts and sandals. 100%. I don't mean that in a disparaging way. Like, that's just how he is. And Andy Ruiz also seems to be that way. And maybe that's not the right complimentary trainer. That Andrew Reese is also too laid back, and you need someone, like you said, to fire you up, to be that opposite, to push you. I don't know. I mean, Andrew Reese is one of those guys where his future is a little bit more unknown because we've seen this happen a lot. And we don't know if this is another flash in the pan a la Buster Douglas, but I like Andy. Like I hope he figures it out. Like I'll be honest. This is sad to a degree that Andy Reese had the lack of training camp that he did. He didn't prepare himself at all for the fight. That he's leaving Manny Robles when, I mean, he was pretty apologetic to Manny after the fight. I mean, if you remember in the press conference at all, he stopped midway and like looked at Manny and like apologized to him profusely that he didn't listen to him. He didn't listen to him in the training camp at all. It's sad that relationship, which seemed like it was a good relationship, ended. And to me, it seems like it probably ended a little bit more in a not malicious way, but in a heated way. Because the way both guys started talking to the media as the weeks went on, it was clear there was issues. But it sucks because I feel like there was a relationship here at one point. This reminds me a lot of like Andre Rozier, Daniel Jacobs, right? That fallout last year, which was kind of sad. Like that's a guy that's trained you for so long. For you to kind of end that way, sad, disappointing. You don't like to see that stuff in this game at all. I am curious whether Teddy is the right fit for him, though. I'll be honest. I don't rate Teddy Atlas as the greatest trainer in the world. Just being honest.
But like, I don't know where to, because he's like a hired gun. Like he comes on, he'll train a guy for a while, and then he won't train anyone for, he'll be out of the training business for a while. I don't know. Like Teddy Atlas fighters are what? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know what kind of trainer he is really. Like, he kind of just takes a guy and says, okay, this is what I think you need to do better. He doesn't really implement a style, like, I don't know. I don't think it's terrible. It was weird. Like, cause I was like, that was the last.
It's not a terrible fit. Don't get me wrong, but it's one of those where like, I never know if Teddy's the right fit for anyone because of the reason you just stated. He doesn't have a identifiable style or like method of training that we see in fighters. Name a trainer. Like you can see their style of training play out in their fighters. On Derek James, Ronnie Shields, Freddie Roach, Virgil Hunter. You start naming trainers, it's clear that they train a certain way. Teddy Atlas is one of those guys where he's a very fired up person, but again, I don't know if he's really the best trainer for Andy. I don't know if Andy needs to be fine-tuned or he needs things to be changed up, because those are very different things. Was his training camp just non-existent, and therefore he's a good fighter. He's the complete package. He just needs to be fine-tuned, for certain fights, certain game plans. He needs someone there to fine-tune a training camp for him for individual fights, which Teddy would be good for, in my opinion. Or does he need a wholesale change of shit? And if that's what he needs, Teddy's not the right guy. Maybe Freddie is. Maybe Ronnie Shields is. Maybe other guys are. But digressing. You have any other thoughts about Andy Reese switching trainers?
No.
Speaking of last night's fights, Jason Quigley calling out Jaime Munguia afterwards. Both Golden Boy fighters also might be a really good next fight, an actual middleweight debut, in my opinion, for Jaime Munguia. Thoughts, Gary, on this potential matchup? And I know you were ranting at the beginning of the show about the Quigley card last night. So I'll also give you this is a good time to talk about the card last night if we want to talk about it. But thoughts on Munguia Quigley next, since Quigley called him out?
It'll be a good scrap. And again, it's a fight that Munguia should win, but it'll be an entertaining fight, right? And I think that's what Munguia is. He's not going to beat the world's best fighters. But as long as he keeps giving you entertaining fights, who cares? I think that's about right. I think this would be an entertaining fight. So And Oscar likes to do this thing, like old school Irish guy and a Mexican fighter. We're going to give you an all-out war. Like every time we get this, it's going to be Barrera versus Wayne McCullough. But but this fight should be a good fight. You know what I'm saying? It should be. So I think McGee passes the test, and I think it's more competitive than Spike Sullivan was.
Ooh, Leonard, send me the link if you can. Or if you can, just tweet it out, Leonard, because I obviously follow you on Twitter, so I'll find it there. I know you're not the greatest social tech guy, but Leonard saying in the chat, breaking news from WBC, adverse finding found in Jimenez VADA test. Obviously, Alejandro Jimenez defeating Franchon Duzerne in a title fight. Was it for multiple belts? I'm trying to remember for what title.
The WBC and the WBO, maybe.
Anyways, curious to see how that transpires, and obviously what she tested positive for. As a Mexican fighter, if it's clenbuterol and it's under a certain level, she has every excuse in the book. Per WADA, per long documented studies on clenbuterol contamination in Mexico and China. If it's not those things, then it kind of plays into why she looked maybe so talented, and not really talented. That's probably the wrong phrase. Why her athletic sort of ability looked unstoppable that night. Like she walked forward and did not stop for the entire fight. If it is PDs and there, it's a certain PD and it, high threshold, then yeah, it kind of explains that performance. If it's clenbuterol, then obviously I need to understand more about it and not understand about clenbuterol, but her case in particular. Gary, thoughts on Alejandro Jimenez testing positive?
Let's just find out what the substance is first, what the levels were, and then go from there. I mean, right now they're just saying there's a finding that you've done something wrong. Well, was it triple homicide or was it jaywalking? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's find out what you're being accused of first before we rush to judgment here. Again, if it's a steroid, that's one thing. If it's clenbuterol and low levels of it, that could be something entirely different.
Yes.
So let's see what the findings are, what the levels are, and then go from there.
Agreed. Also, if this is from the WBC, that means there's a clean boxing program. That $40 on average per month per fighter coming into play there, right, guys? Way to go.
I have a feeling it's going to be something to do with cutting weight. It might be clenbuterol, but
I'm thinking diuretic.
A diuretic. I have a feeling it's going to be that, just from the weight that she comes down from, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, with that cardio, maybe EPO for thinking like really egregious shit. Something to help with cardio. Maybe a SARM, because there's been so many SARM contaminations and just positive tests lately. Like who was the fighter the other week that tested positive? That, remember, you sort of came back against that tested positive for Ligondahl or whatever.
That was
it not a fighter? Or was it somebody else? Was it a different?
No. It was Vesputin, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right, Vesputin. Yes. Like you said, Gary. Like, is it jaywalking? Is it triple homicide? And with PDs and PD regulation, a lot of people think those are the same thing. You know what I mean? Like if you say melodonum, Ligondahl, clenbuterol, and you just say adverse analytical finding or whatever, everyone thinks it's the same thing. EPO, stanzanol, start naming shit. People just think it's all the same thing. And it's not. It really isn't. There needs to be better education about this. Let's be honest. Leonard St. Cruz, Jimenez signed up for a full VOD program. It was not clean boxing program. But if WBC announced it, it was then through the clean boxing program, I'm assuming. You know what I mean, Gary? Leonard. If VADA found it independent of the WBC, then WBC wouldn't be the first to disclose it, in my opinion.
She's got a great story, Jimenez. I just hope it's not anything too serious. Like I don't, it's a cool story. I don't want it to be like Lance Armstrong. Oh, look what he was doing. Yeah,
her dropping down from what, like 240 something, incredible. And she did, like, that was such a great fight to put that now into, a black cloud hanging over it. Just unfortunate. It really is. Women's boxing does not need that shit. It just doesn't. Men's boxing doesn't need it, but they get by. They get over it. Women's boxing, they cannot handle that shit. Let's be honest. The sport cannot handle it. They don't need any more criticism from stupid ass people. Speaking of stupid, though, Joseph Parker and Maurice Walk in play for Garcia Vargas undercard. Gary, thoughts on Joseph Parker fighting Dylan White's leftovers?
What? I mean, this is better than the Otto Valine Lucas Brown fight. I'll give it that. It is better, but I have no interest in this fight either. I mean, look, it is what it is. I mean, look, both Parker and Walk are both better than Brown and Valine. Yeah, that's right. I mean, Parker definitely is.
Parker is Walk?
He's only. I mean, they're probably all in the same. Valine's not good. All Valine can do is be big and get beat up. It's like when Homer Simpson was professional boxer. Like
he beat up the lineal champion.
He was. Oh, it looked like he was going to be the man who beat the man who beat the man. Going all the way back to
Jack L. Sullivan
or whatever. That almost happened, but he's not good. That would have been the worst lineal heavyweight champion of all time.
Moving on. Last piece of news, then we get out. Anthony Fowler joins Shane McGuigan after he splits with Dave Caldwell. And Shane McGuigan losing Josh Taylor against Anthony Fowler. But good for Anthony Fowler, if he feels good there. This is more a topic for Rob, but Rob's not here. Gary, last thoughts on that, and any last thoughts on any of the topics we talked about on today's show?
Losing Josh Taylor, but getting Anthony Fowler. That's not a good trade. It's not a good trade at all.
Oh, that's the come up right there, Gary.
Anthony Fowler is a good domestic level guy who can be used as an opponent for good world level guys, but he'll lose every time.
Yes. Or, because we've seen Rosario beat Julian Williams, anyone can beat anyone in this weight class, Gary.
Maybe.
Or a boxing period. So, like, Ivan Redkach can beat Danny Garcia. That's a good fight now automatically because Rosario won a week ago. So that's what that means. And obviously it means that Anthony Fowler could beat anyone in the junior middleweight division because, I mean, we saw that happen a week ago. That's what I learned from that fight.
So you're taking Redkach to win? That's your official prediction?
I still hope people understand my sarcasm. I've been very sarcastic this show. I hope people understand that I was being very sarcastic most of the show. I agree with what you said. Anthony Fowler is a good domestic level guy. Good barometer test for the top 30-ish guys, I guess. And hey, if you want to switch trainers, go switch trainers. Don't care. That's going to be it for this show, guys. Thank you for joining us on today's show. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. Join us on Patreon to help support the channel in any financial way. Just $1 a month is all we're asking for. And you can find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, on all social media platforms. And leave a comment down below with all your thoughts about all the topics on today's show. Gary?
It was a good show today. We miss Rob. Hopefully he's back for the next one. Are we going to be doing a live fight chat for the Danny Garcia? I mean, not a live fight chat, but an immediate reaction for Garcia?
Probably not.
But it is Garcia, so I mean, all right. I mean,
maybe.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. If I'm really bored, yes.
Okay.
So stay on your toes there, Gary, tomorrow. I'll keep you updated.
From Texas to the world, thank you. God bless.
By the way, Rob jumping in at the very end of the chat. Wait and see, haters. Rob hasn't talked at all this entire chat until the very end when he mentioned Anthony Fowler. Love you, Rob. Have a great day. Peace.